mission statement from our athletic director, and then we will open it up to questions. Athletic Director, Brad Duckworth.
Well, thanks, Tim, and thanks for coming out. We've prepared a statement and then gladly take any questions that you may have. The University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point is pleased to see the long process come to an end today with today's announcement from the NCAA. We took swift and immediate action in response when we were informed by the NCAA of a violation. We appreciate the thoroughness of the review. It is a relief to be able to move forward with the next phase of our men's basketball program. Our men's basketball team won the WIAC tournament last year and advanced to the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament. This season, our student athletes continue to build on the team's success and are currently ranked in the country. I'm proud of our student athletes who have stepped up and continue to be successful on and off the court. The university is committed to full compliance with all NCAA rules and to uphold the integrity of the entire UW-Stevens Point athletic program. With that being said, I'll gladly take any questions that anybody may have regarding the announcement from the NCAA.
Were there any further penalties that were assessed as a result of the report?
Yes, there were, and if you don't mind, I'll grab those.
Okay.
I thought I had those with me. Yes, some were self-imposed, some we had talked about when we had announced Coach Semling's suspension in 2016. There were several, including a public reprimand and censure. Men's basketball will be on probation from the NCAA from a period starting today, ending on this date in 2023. There are several compliance measures that we will continue to embrace, including an external review of our compliance structures, attend an additional regional rules committee meeting, ensure that our compliance structure has additional oversight and reporting structures. We have, there were some self-imposed pieces with this. As you know, we suspended Coach Semling what is already two full seasons ago for half of the season. Postseason ban ourselves at that point. We self-imposed a $2,500 fine. We self-imposed the lack of official visits through the probationary period, so for another additional 4 years. There were a couple of other penalties that came forward through this. The former athletic director received a show cause sanction for a period of 3 years and an unethical conduct. His retribution as part of that will be to receive some ethics training and attend additional compliance measures. He is currently employed at a different NCAA institution. Our head coach received a 2-year show cause order. Coach Semling, who will remain our head men's basketball coach, and we were very excited to play Whitewater tomorrow night and get to the other side of what has been a long period of this. Coach Semling is on a 2-year show cause period, and as part of his retribution and show cause, he needs to attend a regional rules seminar and go through an ethics training as well. So those were additional pieces that came. We've continued to delay the start of the men's basketball season by three practices. We've done that for the last 3 years, and next year will be 4, and we'll move to the other side of that. And then we have to publicly reprimand and inform. So on our website, there will be, through the probationary period, will be an explanation of the offenses and details of the case. So outside of that, as you can read in the report, the NCAA took into account the swift action we took early, and Coach Semling has been tremendous with working through the process on that with us, and for that reason today comes to a conclusion, but there isn't anything earth-shattering in terms of the additional sanctions from the NCAA.
Do you think that by self-reporting the violations that you've had, that maybe the NCAA sort of took that into account when deciding to give you guys any additional sanctions, or lack thereof?
Well, the thing that's been tremendous from my standpoint is the institution and Coach Semling have been extremely transparent through this whole process. You know, Coach Semling and ourselves announced 2 years ago already the mistakes we made. The NCAA process continues to be very self-governed, so it is important that you're self-reporting, you're transparent, you're honest. I think the institution did a great job of that. I think that had a part in that. You know, you'll be able to read in the report for yourself why maybe sanctions happened in other areas. But, you know, in terms of UW-Stevens Point, I think our willingness to comply and our transparency certainly played a factor in this. We made mistakes. We apologize for the mistakes we've made. You know, this is now almost 4 years ago. We've significantly cleaned up gaps in our compliance, and we're ready to move forward.
You want to talk about just the process, how long it took there? What was kind of the holdup within the last few years?
That is, if I had $1 for every time I've been asked that, I'd be announcing my retirement today. It's a lengthy process. So as you are all aware, we went through the process and deemed this to be secondary in nature several years ago, almost 3 years ago. The NCAA renewed an investigation and conducted a very thorough investigation on the front end. The challenging piece with the length of this is that while Coach Semling is a committed member of the UW-Stevens Point community and family and our coaching staff, the former director of athletics was not. So he works for a different institution, so now you really are working with 3 parties, the NCAA, the former director of athletics, and the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. And a lot of this happened a long time ago, so trying to get everybody to agree. The process goes through one of 2 processes. You either agree to the facts, meaning you write a summary disposition report, which is what Stevens Point, the former athletic director, and Coach Semling did, meaning we all substantially agree to the facts of the case. The other opportunity is to take it to a hearing. We chose not to go down that route, but in the summary disposition process, trying to get that many people to agree on that many facts that happened that long ago was painstakingly long. And we had anticipated this to be done several months ago, and we actually anticipated this to be done last week, as some of you may know.
Throughout the report, did you ever get to the bottom of exactly what caused the violations or what caused the oversight that may have led to the violations?
Yes. I mean, throughout this process, you can see now, you have to remember, I wasn't here from 2011 to 2015, so I'm going to use a little bit of 22 years of my own experience to summarize what I believe was the case. I believe that our compliance staff and our institutional staff were tremendous and accurate in the way they reported and went about what was going on. I think at the time we had a newer athletic director who wasn't as familiar with Division III bylaws. I think we had I know we had several changes in legislation at the NCAA level in 2011 that clearly were misinterpreted. I don't think that Coach Semling egregiously decided, to make some of the errors that happened. I think they happened. I think what happened was there was a breakdown in communication between our head coach and the former director of athletics that was significant in this particular case. I think there's some culpability on both sides of that. As the report will state, the head coach is responsible for compliance within their program. If you take a look at Coach Semling's track record prior to 2011 and since 2011, there has been very minor NCAA infractions, which every program has. Coach Semling was committed to NCAA compliance. He's one of the best in terms of the compliance tests that we take every year. He's very educated in the rules. I think there was a breakdown in the communication between the top leadership in athletics at that point and our head men's basketball coach, and unfortunately that spun out of control for 5 years. There's several mitigating factors that could prove, that kind of shows that, but I think ultimately it broke down to the new athletic director a little bit unfamiliar with Division III bylaws, probably misinterpreting some of the way the bylaws should be interpreted, and a men's basketball coach who, from what I can gather from Bob, was doing what he thought was permissible in a lot of different ways. But wasn't, and that's the truth. And he'll be the first one to say, he stood on that balcony and watched those guys play. He did that. We had graduate assistants a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, who participated with our team. We did that. We monitored weight room activities. We did that. We made mistakes, and it's unfortunate. It's been a long process. It's 8 years later. We're here today, and I'm excited for tomorrow so that we can actually start to get on to 2019 and teams that move forward. So we've admitted to that. Today's not very revolutionary in terms of was there anything more. The only thing that was more than what I addressed to you in 2016 was that the former director of athletics at the time also received a show cause and a 5th major violation to this particular case. Outside of that, not a lot has changed in the public documents since then.
Can you explain what a show cause is?
Yep. So a show cause order is a penalty instituted by the NCAA that stays with a employee, so of an NCAA institution. So should Coach Semling, for the record, Coach Semling is getting ready for practice. I mean, he's going to coach our practice tonight, and we are going to do everything in our power to beat Whitewater tomorrow in both men's and women's basketball. So Coach is our coach. What a show cause order means is should Coach Semling choose to work at an additional NCAA institution, leave here, go somewhere else, the penalties that he has as part of his show cause go with him. So if another institution were to choose to hire Coach Semling and contest the penalties, they would have to show cause as to why the penalties should not follow him. But again, at the end of the day, the completion with the show cause order for Coach Semling is attainable. Some of the bad ones that you hear at the Division I institution levels almost prohibit somebody from the opportunity to coach. This isn't going to prohibit Coach Semling to coach. Coach has got to go through some training and go to a rules training, live out the 2-year order, and then get back to trying to win our 5th national championship.
Is the summary disposition report going to be made available, or is it in the packet? I really didn't get a chance.
It's a public document.
Okay.
We gave you the press release. You can find it on ncaa.org, and the full 28-page public document is there. It details a lot of the information. We just printed that's a pretty good highlight, but all of the intricate details are on ncaa.org.
Any particular reason this news conference was delayed by a week?
Yes, we had some contentious pieces with the first report. So as you work through this, this is a agreement process. All the parties agree, substantially agree. Nobody agrees on anything, right? So we were in a substantial agreement, and so the process, which is fascinating to me, and I want to be on record as saying the NCAA has been terrific in this process. It's just the reality of the process. We received word on Monday last week that the report was going to be available to the institution at 9 a.m. Central Time last Monday, and that the official public document was to go out at 11 a.m. Central Time last Monday. We had a 2-hour window, and if you remember last Monday, we were dealing with the preparation of minus 26-degree winds or weather, moving basketball games, school closers, and our chancellor, our university council, vice chancellor, myself couldn't drop our world and say, we got 2 hours. So thankfully they pushed it back 2 more hours and was going to release at 1 o'clock. We were going to meet with you at 2. When we read the document, there was some pieces in here that we didn't think classified what the process, or represented what the process had been. So we asked for a opportunity to have some more conversation about the public document. That was the first time we'd seen the public document, and they granted us some time. We didn't know what the amount of time was until we received word late last night that it was going to become public today. And they did make some editorial changes. Nothing of substance, but important details to the case.